God speaks to me through dreams. I had a dream that this person knocked on my door when I was in my office, and they're like, "You need to leave." So I was like, is this from the enemy or is this, prophetic? 2 days later, it was on November 30th, when it's about to be rent due on December 1st. I'm in my office sewing. This person knocks on my door and says, "You're gonna have to vacate." She tells me this the day before December. Literally, the last day of November, she tells me. So, hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Shariel, if you're new, and if you're returning, thank you for coming back. Today is January 1st, 2023, and I wanted to start off with my first faith video because my channel is about faith, fashion, and frugality, and of course, advice. So I'll get into my testimony of how God blessed me with an amazing office space after having a terrible experience with my first office earlier this year. So we'll get into this right after the intro. So if you know nothing about me, I am a fashion designer and I have a business called Riser Co. I started my business in 2013 in honor of my best friend, Ruben Johnson, who passed away from cancer. And the brand is all about continuing his legacy and putting out quality, stylish clothing. I had been working in my grandparents' basement for years and I knew it was time for a change. So I ended up looking up office spaces on Facebook Marketplace and I found a space that had everything included. It had the heat, the electricity, there was a bathroom in the office, and Wi-Fi. So it seemed like a good deal. The catch about this was not through a real estate brokerage. It was through a middleman. So the person that I was renting from, this person was subletting the office to me. They were in a 5-year contract with the actual landlord, but they were subletting offices to help pay the rent through us. When I first checked out the office, there were already red flags that I found out about later with this person and with the office. So they had me look at it and it was nice and it was a good start and it was very close to my house. So I was like, okay, I'll take it. But the first red flag that I did not pay attention to was when I messaged this person, I technically was supposed to have the first month free of rent. So they had an ad where if you contacted them by a certain day, you would be eligible for the month free. So I messaged this person very early in the day because I know I'd be able to see it in time. This person didn't message me back until the next day on purpose so I wouldn't get that first month free. I was like, whatever. I know that was definitely, in my spirit, I knew that was for a reason, but I was like, whatever, I need an office. Around this time, this is February 2022. It's freezing in the state I live up north. This person doesn't tell me the heat doesn't work until after I sign the lease. Each room had its own HVAC system, so you can customize the AC and the heat to just your room. They did not tell me the heat didn't work until after I signed the lease. They didn't mention it at all. So after that, they were like, oh yeah, we can give you a space heater until we get it fixed. I was like, okay, I'm gonna let that slide as well. So you answer me late so I don't get the free month, and then the heat doesn't work and you don't tell me after. I even inspected the floor. Every time this person would get stuff done to repair or renovate the office, it was janky, whoever they hired. I don't know who they hired, but I can just tell. There would be small nail heads out of the floorboards that weren't hammered down, so you would snag your foot or your sock on it, so I would always wear sneakers in there. There was painter's tape still in the corners of the bathroom that was in my office, so everything was just really rushed and just pretty much to get stuff to look nice so they can get the rent. And this is not the landlord, this is the middleman, the person that's subletting. So I'm paying $800 a month. My mom wasn't even happy that I was paying that much because it was a little much. So I had a tenant across from me who was renting. She did massages and she was telling me how this person that was the middleman, the subletter, had this entire floor filled out and everybody left. They do cosmetic things. and everybody left because this person is shiesty, right? So I'm thinking I'm already in a 6-month contract. I'm gonna wait it out and just stick with it because this office was helping me so much, you guys. I was able to have good lighting, have all my studio equipment for recording podcasts for YouTube, with my sewing machines. And I, when you're at home, you have to clean up after you record or after you cut something out. With my studio, I could leave my project and then come back and then finish my project and clean it up. So it was just super convenient for me. But the girl that was across from me was telling me how everybody left because this person's just not a good person that's subletting to people. And also she was living a fake lifestyle. So this person portrays themselves as a full-time entrepreneur and an influencer, but they can't really afford that life in real life. Their business is not making them enough money to actually survive. Not to get into this person's business, I'm not going to give all the details of what I know and what I found out from my person across the room, the other tenant, but because this person doesn't have a full-time job to help with their bills, they would literally spike up things in our rent. A part of my $800 rent was Wi-Fi, right? But the Wi-Fi was accounted for $100. Mind you, the person across from me, her rent was $700 and $100 of that was for the Wi-Fi. $200 for Wi-Fi? There's just no way. So there's times where we just knew the rent was as high as it was, so this person could pocket the money while paying the landlord on time. The money that they're pocketing is so they don't have to have a job. So when this person didn't have enough tenants, which they didn't when I was there's only 2 of us now versus the 6 that were there before, they're not really making enough money because their business and their services and the amount of clients they have are not making them enough money. There'd be times where this person would disappear. I'm telling you, I would text them, oh, hey, what's going on with this and that? This person would disappear for the whole day, not text me back. There'll be questions about my room. And I don't know what they're doing for money, but they had to upkeep this image online to act like they were doing well, and they're not. So this just gave me a backstory. Basically, 2022 was just a crazy year for me, besides dealing with this subletter who was portraying themselves as a full-time entrepreneur, but they're actually not. And it really backfired for us, the tenants, because a lot of things would get neglected. There were times where this person changed the lock on the door. It was originally a key and a lock, and they changed it to a keypad with a code. They were supposed to put my code in it. They didn't. So there was like a day or 2 I couldn't even get into the office. They also changed the doorknob. But every time they would get something done by somebody, like I told you earlier, it was a janky job. So because they're rushing, doing whatever to scramble to get money, they weren't fully managing the office the way they should have. So things weren't getting repaired in the same day. They were getting repaired gradually over time. So there's a time where there wasn't even a handle on the door for me to open the door, and my code didn't work. So there was a time in August I couldn't get into my own office that I'm paying $800 a month for about 5 days. Imagine if I had a client. The heat was always an issue, the AC, because my HVAC system was synced to another room. The HVACs were synced, so if they weren't on the same settings and I would try to change it just for my room, then the repair person would have to come. There are times where the Wi-Fi wouldn't work all of a sudden when they left, and it was just a lot of weird things going on. So I'm dealing with all of this all in 2022 while having 2 jobs because I had to pay for that $800 rent that I really couldn't afford, and I was coming to the point where I had no time. I didn't have time to make videos, I didn't have time to make clothes, and it defeated the purpose because I'd be in my office for an amount of time, but I'm really working, and I had enough money to pay my rent, but I was never there. So it was just frustrating, and I was at a point where I'm like, Lord, I need something. Like, this is tough for me. This is crazy. And I just knew, I know what God's told me to do. He's told me to create content. He's telling me to show my talents and do other things like that, and it just wasn't making sense. It wasn't adding up. And then with this person on top of that, that was making things more difficult. So there was a point in August, like I said, where there was a door situation. We couldn't get into the office, and then the power went out. They didn't give me all the details. They just said the power was out, and then turns out there was kind of a plumbing situation And this is in the summertime when the electricity went off, which means there's no AC. All the heat is rising, and it damaged one of my YouTube mics. It was $100 and something microphone, and I'm not rolling in money at the moment or back then. So that was just, I have renter's insurance though, but still, it was just super inconvenient. And then when I came and, the electricity was back on, it was back on conveniently their side of the building where their office was, but my office still didn't have electricity till the next day. So this is the type of stuff I'm talking about. It was just like, they were just weird and sneaky and just not a good person and very inconsiderate. So around when all that happened, my lease was up, and I was like, I'm not about to sign another 6 months in this place. This person is unstable because they need my rent so bad so they don't have to get a job again. I'm not signing. I will just go month to month and give them money. And because of all these things that happened at once with the plumbing, electricity, and all that disastrous things, this person offered to lower my rent, which they did by $200. And they were like, okay, well, I'll lower it by $200. So it's from 8 to 6, which was more manageable, so I can have one job instead of two and pay my rent. And that was a relief for me. I'm trying not to be long-winded, but I have to tell the whole backstory of why I was barely on YouTube and, my testimony in general. So the rent was down $200. It put a relief on me, and I only needed one job now because I can do other side things to get money. So our agreement was from August to December. We'll see how it goes. With the 600, and then from there, whatever, we'll see if I stay or the rent will go back up to 8. Fast forward from August to October, this person, the subletter, was offering me a better deal, right? So they're like, okay, there's 2 rooms next to each other and you can have them both for $500 because, and this is the person, they always try to act like they're trying to help you. They're not. It's always a secret motive for their benefit. So they were like, oh, you can have one room for your studio to film and for your podcast, and then you can have another room for your sewing. So then you have separate rooms and it's better. So I'm thinking, okay, $500 for 2 rooms. So that's even $100 less than what I'm paying. There's a catch. Once I got to the floor where we have all of the offices, I went back there and I see the 2 rooms that this person wanted to offer me for $100 less. These rooms put together were almost smaller than the room I had. They didn't have a bathroom in it. They didn't have a closet like my room does for storage. I do fashion. I need to use the bathroom to do makeup, my own personal bathroom, and to change clothes. So this person, I knew once they showed me those rooms, they just wanted me out of my $800 room because I was paying $600. So they wanted a new tenant to pay that $800, so it would help them financially because they don't want to get a job. This is the whole point. This person did not want to get a job so bad. I declined those 2 rooms that this person offered me because the lighting was terrible and it's actually a downgrade from what I have. Why would I take that for less than like $100 less? No. So when I said no, I know that bothered them, but they acted like it didn't. And then I went to California, right? So throughout this time from February to October, I maybe paid and I don't lie about stuff, right? I maybe paid my rent late once. And I notified them, and I have partial, I never have nothing. So if I have late rent, it's about 70% what I'm supposed to have. And then I quickly get you the other money because I make money different ways. So like I said, I paid late one time. In October, I denied the 2 rooms that were more helpful. This is the other catch, because it was like a lobby with rooms and another room, right? This was so funny. I would have had to sign a contract for $800 again because it had 3 offices in it. So their suggestion was me have those 2 rooms for $500, contractually be obligated to sign $800 to pay $800 again, and then you can sublet to somebody else with a business for that other office that's empty. No, that's your job. You signed this 5-year lease. You're gonna have to pay the consequences because you can't afford it. You shouldn't have quit your job. I'm not about to sublet to somebody and be obligated to pay $800 again when I just had 2 jobs breaking my neck. I'm not going back to that. So anyway, I declined it. In October, I went to California to my uncle's wedding. And you know, when you leave, when you go on vacation, you spend a little more money. So I spent more money because I was out of town and I didn't have the rent for the second time on time ever. I paid the rent late and I didn't let her know until like the day of. And it wasn't me being irresponsible. It's just I do other things. So like I could do Uber Eats real quick or sell cookies or whatever. There's ways for me to get money, but at the time I just didn't have time to. And it wasn't because I was irresponsible. It's just I went out of town. I paid her $400 and then within 10 days I had the other $200. So I really was within that time period that you have, the grace period anyway. I can tell this person was upset about it, but they didn't say anything. And this is crazy because God speaks to me through dreams. I had a dream that this person knocked on my door when I was in my office and they're like, you need to leave. So I was like, is this from the enemy or is this, prophetic? 2 days later, it was on November 30th when it's about to be rent due on December 1st. I'm in my office sewing. This person knocks on my door and says, when you paid me the rent late, I had to pay my landlord late. And they know I usually never do that. So because of that, and you're not contractually here, like we've been doing month to month, you're gonna have to vacate. She tells me this the day before December, literally the last day of November, she tells me. So this is the hypocrisy of it all. You say I inconvenienced you, because this is what she told me verbally, that I inconvenienced her by not notifying her till the day before rent was due, that I didn't have all of it. But then the day before rent is due, you tell me I have to get out. You know what I mean? Like, then why would you do the same thing I did to you if that was messed up? But this is this person. Something's wrong. Something's wrong up there, okay? So I'm like, okay. And I don't know what she expected, but she kind of stared in my face like, oh my God. Like, I'm not going to react like that. I'm not going to be like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I was like, you know what? God already gave me this dream. He warned me, and this was confirmation. So I was like, she asked me, when can I leave? I said, I'll let you know. I was in my room, no lie, you guys, thinking there's no way that all of a sudden I'm going back to the basement. I'm not going back to my grandparents' basement to work on my business. God wouldn't have brought me to an office space to downgrade me back to where I came from. I'm like, I know this is for a reason. I didn't panic. I had peace, and I continued to work on my sewing projects. And then I told my boss at my job, I was like, I can't come in tomorrow because I have to vacate my office. And my boss knew the past history with this person, so they were like, wow, the fact that they did that. And she was like, no problem, go ahead and handle your stuff tomorrow. So like I said, I had peace. I was not panicking. I'm like, this has to be for a reason. So the next morning, I get up literally at like 7:30 a.m. I drive down the street of the area of where my now will be old office is. I drive down the street. I find different places that say office for rent. I call the numbers. I make appointments. I literally have an appointment the same day. And then I go to another office that has an actual brokerage number, and I call about this office. So I drive, I call about this office. It's in a nice building, and the guy's like, it's this many square feet and it's $2,500 a month. I was like, low key. I didn't say it to him on the phone. I'm like, $2,500, there's no way. But he was like, but I do have a more affordable option in the same area, and everything's included. So I was like, okay. So I met with this person, my guy Bill. He shows me the 2 offices. One of them is the size of my old office, and one is twice as big. The one that was the size of my old office space is $600, but for the first 6 months you pay $500, which was a good deal. But I was like, no, when I saw this bigger room, I was like, this is what God has for me. But it was $800, and I'm like, this would bring me kind of back to having to work a lot of hours and not being able to make content or work on my craft, and I don't want to go back to that. But I just knew in my spirit, I was like, I need to get the big office. And what I told myself, like what I told God in my heart, like in my head, I was like, okay, Lord, if you want me to have this office for $800 and it's twice the size, I need the price to go down some type of way, right? I need the price to go down. So my guy, the realtor, was like, okay, I'll send you a draft lease and go over it and let me know what you want to do. And the crazy thing is, on December 1st, the day after this person tells me I need to vacate my office, my credit card limit went up by $2,000. So I'm like, okay, I actually have a little cushion for the security deposit and the first month's rent, because I already know you have to pay that up front. Like I said, I told God, the price needs to go down if you want me to have the big room. Bill sent the mock contract, and I look and see what we discussed verbally. Of course, he said the room that was like the size of my other room, $600, but for the first 6 months it's $500. And then for the big room, which we discussed $800, and it should have been $700 for the first 6 months, he said in the contract $600. I'd have to pay $600 for the first 6 months for the big room. I'm like, like I said, it would have been $700 because you're going from $100 less than $7. It went from $8 to $6. And then in the contract, it's $750 once the second half of the 6 months hit. So I'm like, that's all I needed to see. Because even the $750 seems high, but I'm like, in 6 months, I know for a fact I'm not going to be where I am right now. God is going to elevate me and the provision is going to come. So once I saw that the mock lease was less money, that was a confirmation I asked the Lord for. I needed that price to drop. Whether it was $50, $100, it doesn't matter. It was less than what we verbally just discussed. Literally, he gave me this mock lease 2.5 hours after we verbally spoke, and he doesn't have a bad memory. So I just knew that was God. So it was either the same day or the next day, I signed the lease, and I had my security deposit and my first month's rent. So I literally got an office space twice the size the next day for the same $600 rent. You can't tell me that's not God. How in the world? And not only that, it's only 2 minutes away from my original office. The first office I had, it's 2 minutes away, close to my house, and it's such a blessing. And I had faith. I just knew, I was like, God is not having me go back to the basement. I am upgrading. That's what we do. And this office is beautiful. I can keep my podcast stuff set up and my YouTube backdrop set up without having to take them down because I have more space in here. I can do photo shoots in here. It has beautiful wood floors. There's no little nail head sticking out that'll nick your sock. I'm just so grateful. And my friends helped me move, and my brother. I literally was out of that old office by December 3rd. 3 days I was out in a whole new space. And it's just better now because there's no middlemen. I'm directly sending my rent to the landlord. I don't have to deal with shiesty managers or shiesty subletters. So it was just the perfect timing. It was perfect timing. It was right after my birthday month and before the new year. And God blessed me with a beautiful office space, twice the size, same rent, 2 minutes away. And now I'm ready to go. Ready to make these YouTube videos. I thank all of you guys for following me, and I just want to encourage you to trust God, because there's times where our lives are flipped upside down and we're like, what is going on? Like, this is crazy. This doesn't make sense. And it's for a reason. Things that happen to us, good and bad, are for a reason. I don't care what anybody says. I encourage you to build your faith in God, because the old Shariel, if that would have happened to me, I got kicked out of my office maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I would have panicked. But I'm so far in my faith walk with God, I'm like, this don't even make sense. This is for a reason. God's bringing me somewhere else. So if something is happening in your life that you don't understand, or you feel is unfair, or you feel like God has forgotten about you, lock in with him, because what he has for you, you need to put feet to it. You need to pursue it. First of all, if I would have been defeated and said, oh my gosh, I got kicked out, I'm just gonna go home and cry. No, what did I do the next day? I went to search for another office, and the provision came when my credit card limit went up. So it's like, you need to invest in yourself. You need to believe. that is going to happen for you, take the steps, because God will bless the actions that you take. Faith without works is dead, and it's you can't just pray about stuff or hope. You have to put the action to it. So I pray that this testimony blesses you. I pray that, you know, all of us get double for our trouble. This literally was double for my trouble, and all that crazy stuff I went through in 2022 is over. It's literally a new year, and I'm just so excited to move on and to keep getting better, to keep growing, to keep inspiring. And I'm just grateful to God. He's good. He is just so good. So thank you for listening to my testimony. If you got to the end, I really tried to get to the point, but I had to give a backstory. It was crazy. If you like my video, give me a thumbs up. If you would like to see more from me, subscribe to my channel and share this with your friends. Thank you for watching once again. You are appreciated.